Buying a house in your 20s can seem really intimidating and such a grown-up thing to do. And as someone who started her property journey at the age of 24, who is not a nepo baby, I wanted to talk about all of the things I've learned so far as a property investor. So if you've been around here long enough, you know the drill. I want you to grab a pen, I want you to grab a paper, I want you to get comfortable, because I'm going to be sharing the 5 things that I've learned so far on my property investing journey. So the first thing is, you don't need to be rich to start. I actually have a video on my channel where I talk about my very first paycheck. I was earning £13.81 as a junior doctor, and yet I was able to jump on the property ladder in my early 20s. And like I said, no, I wasn't a nepo baby. I didn't have a pot of cash just lying around for me to use. I was super intentional. I knew from the moment that I was in medical school that the one thing I wanted to do was jump on the property ladder as quickly as possible. And so when I started working, I created a budget. I knew every single month how much I wanted to put aside for this house that I wanted to invest in. And I know that when we talk about the property market, it's usually doom and gloom. When people think property, they think of house prices in London and the fact that they're so expensive. But London isn't the only place you can invest. There are so many different cities within the UK that you can invest in, and I can guarantee you, you will find a house that is within your budget. It's just whether or not you're willing to put in the work and find that house. And for me, in between working full-time as a junior doctor, doing nights on calls, I was going on house viewings, and by going on house viewings, I was able to understand which areas made sense for me. It gave me clarity on the kind of people that I wanted in my house. So did I want it to be a student house? Did I want it to be a family home? Did I want it to be a home for young professionals? And it also gave me insight into whether or not my budget was realistic for the time frame that I was saving for. The second thing that I've learned is, it's not about the house, but it's about the research that you did prior to getting the house. And in a world of social media, sometimes that can be overlooked. People can rush into buying a home that actually isn't a good investment property, but for the congratulations, they overlook the research. When I've spoken to property investors who have a large portfolio, they always remind me that you actually make money at the time that you buy, which is interesting because a lot of people probably think that you make the money at the end when you've made the house look super pretty, or you've taken it from a state of being inhabitable to habitable, but actually it's when you buy. The fundamentals when buying a house should never be overlooked. Think about the location. Is it in a good location? Are there transport links? Are there new investment coming into the area? Have organizations moved into the area, which means that there's going to be more jobs available to local people living in the area? What is the rental market saying? Is the rental prices increasing or are they decreasing? What does capital growth look like? And capital growth, simply put, is just what the value of the houses are doing over a period of time. So you want the value of the house to be increasing in that area and not decreasing, otherwise it might be a little bit of a side-eye situation. The third thing that I've learned is, you need to create a system. As beautiful as it is to be a homeowner and to be a property investor, I can't lie, there is so much that goes into it. You're not just managing the house, you are managing different kinds of people and the different things that arise. If you don't have a system, it can be super overwhelming. And some people will say, well, they want to wait until they have more than one property to create a system, but any business had the systems created from the very beginning and then just scaled up those systems as they went along. If you are thinking about being a property investor or you're already in a property investor, I would highly recommend putting systems in place. So a few things that I would highly recommend: you be as organized as possible. So have a property tracker for every house that you own or every house you're about to complete on. Make sure you have a folder, make sure you have a Excel sheet that has all the information about that property in there. So all of the expenses, all of the income, and any other relevant piece of information that you'd like to see in one place. The second thing is set reminders. Yes, you can trust your brain to naturally remind you of when a gas certificate needs to be done, but if you just set a reminder, it's one less thing to worry about. So try and automate your reminders on all of the crucial bits and pieces that you need for your home. And the last thing, which if I'm honest with you, is the most important thing, especially if you are a long distance investor. And by long distance, I mean that if you don't live in the city where you've invested, you need to have a good team. A good team is fundamental because naturally, as people live in your home and wear and tear happens, there will be issues that arise, and you want to know that those issues are dealt with in a swift and efficient manner, and you want to have people who are reliable, and investing in a really good team from the jump will save you a lot of time and a lot of headache in the long run. The fourth thing I've learned is don't be scared of debt. Hear me out. I remember being in a debate and someone was talking about how to buy a house, and the debate was, should you buy a house with cash or should you buy a house with a mortgage? Now, unless you, I don't know, have a pot of money, a large pot of money lying around, or you're able to build that pot relatively quickly, a lot of people will actually fall into the second option, which is using mortgages to buy a home. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think it just depends on your financial circumstances and what you value and what your thoughts are towards those things. But one thing that I will say is that there are two types of debt. There's good debt and there's bad debt. Good debt in my head is when you borrow money but you're using it for something that will make you more money in the long run, whereas bad debt is basically borrowing money for something that won't make you money. If you think about property, when you buy a house, you have two things potentially working in your favor. The first thing that you have is capital gains. So in other words, due to economics, the concept of supply and demand, naturally the value of a house should go up. And then the second thing, you've got the rent. When you give someone a home to live in exchange for that, they pay you rent. So you've actually got two streams of income working in your favor, despite the fact that you've borrowed. Now, one thing I will say is, in order for the latter to be the position that you're in, which is the best position to be in, you need to make sure that you've done the research. You need to make sure that you've been on that Excel sheet and you've run the numbers and the house is going to be lucrative from a financial perspective. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. And the last thing that I'll say is you don't need to know everything. Now, before people come for me, I'm not saying that you don't need to know the fundamentals. You need to make sure that your deal makes sense. Otherwise, it may not be a good investment to pursue, and you could end up in a really bad financial situation as a result of it. But what I'm saying is you don't need to know everything. I feel like sometimes we stop ourselves from taking steps in life because we feel like we're inadequate or we don't know enough. But there are some things that you just pick up experiencing them and just going through the motion. So don't sweat it. As long as you have the fundamentals, the house makes sense, it's in a good location, the numbers on the Excel spreadsheet make sense, you'll pick up the other things like the art of negotiation. You'll pick that up along the way. How to manage people, again, you'll pick that along the way. But naturally, as you go through life anyway, those things evolve, but I don't think that they should stop you from investing in property early if you have the means to do so. So yeah, guys, those are the 5 things that I've learned so far as a property investor slash girly in her 20s trying to figure everything out. Let me know what your thoughts are, and if there's anything that you've learned or anything else that you'd like me to talk about in relation to property. And make sure you check the description box for some links to goodies that I'm going to put in there, and I will see you in my next video.